Okay, I'm going to attempt to go through this a bit of a tutorial here or a walkthrough here on setting up this piece up here. It's sort of a life counter, or it could be used as a life counter. It's not actually doing that right now, but you'll see that there are 2, 4, 6 little heroes up there, and no matter where I walk in the game, the heroes stay where they're supposed to be, and you can see that they're sort of decrementing right now. That's just really they're just on a counter, just so I can show that you can add and remove them over there. So let's look how that's put together. Now, there's a canvas in the game, in this game here, and so the canvas it really just has nothing on it at the moment. But to start off with, what I did is I said, okay, let's add a UI element, and we're going to add a UI element which is an image. And you can see it's a fairly large image straight off hand because it's 100 by 100. We'll make it something like 32 by 32. And let's pull a image into there. So we'll go into, let's see, Tiny RPG Town, Sprites, NPC. This is a different set of heroes, I think. So let's grab this NPC here. That one. And, whoops. I need to select that image and drag one of these, that one, as that renderer there. Okay. So I put that in there. It's on the smaller side. I don't know if I can I do this right here? Maybe I can, yeah. 48 by 48. And let's move it just for the time being, just so you can kind of see it. So there's our little NPC life counter-ish thing. Let's make it 64 by 64. Let's just see if this works. Doing a little slightly different than I planned on, but we'll use it there. Okay, so I'm going to start off. I'm going to initialize that again. 0, 0, 64, 64. That's going to be my width and height, and that is going to be my little life indicator. That's what I want to do with that. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to rename it, and we're going to call this NPC life for that one. And I'm going to make a prefab out of that. So I'm going to go to my prefabs folder, grab that NPC, put it into the prefab folder, and remove it from there. Delete. Okay, so it's not there anymore. But I have this NPC life, which is kind of unusual down there. You see, it's not just a typical prefab because it's this UI element, which makes it sort of on the special side. All right. So my canvas, I have a life counter script. So I've made a script as a custom script which contains the smarts for actually doing this life countery thing. So I have a class called life counter, which is of course just the name of the class, and I'm going to have a reference to a prefab, which is going to be the image, and I'm going to have a list, and I guess I could make this a static list, so there's only one of them. Static list game object foo, which is going to be a list of lives, just a list of these things, so I can refer to that. Could be named anything. Could be life list or something like that. The temp v, that's going to be a temp offset. That's a temporary vector that I'm going to use as an offset. I'm going to calculate where the first one is, and then each one that I create after that, so I'll organize this up a little bit here. That's going to be the initial location, and then each one after that's going to be offset by a certain amount, right? So let's set this up. So during start, I am going to have a little temporary called temporary temp.geo for temporary game object, and that is going to be something that I instantiate from my prefab. So I'm going to create this temporary game object, and I'm going to use the version of instantiate, which basically just says, okay, here's the game object, the template for this prefab here, and I'm going to say transform. Now, when I use this particular version of transform, or of instantiate, you can see here it is a version that says, okay, you're going to give it the original game object, which is the template, the prefab, and the second one is going to be, okay, this is the parent of the new object that you're creating, and that's important because you want this to be a child of the canvas, right? So this script is attached to the canvas so that the child here, this new game object, is going to be a child of the canvas. And that's important because we want it to move around in all that kind of way. Now, once we have that, we want to figure out some things about it. We want to figure out, okay, what is the basically the size of that that game object in the appropriate world space, coordinate space, screen space, and so on. So we're going to get the rect transform, which is a little bit unusual. This is going to give us the position, size, anchor, and pivot information for a rectangle. This is something that UI objects have, and it's a little different than the typical transform, but it's a special component. You can see it up here, rect transform, and that's driven by certain values on the canvas. So this is kind of a special version of a transform position. And the thing we're interested in is this size delta dot x. That's going to give us basically this width here. Okay. Little did you know that. That's what that is. So that's going to give us the offset. We're going to use that as the size in between each of the little life countery thingies up there. Okay. So we set up the initial position as being the position of that game object, which is probably going to just be 0, 0 for starters. Okay, should be 0, 0 because that's what we're going to set it to in the prefab. And then we have to calculate an offset for that according to the screen, because working with the canvas is different than working with normal game objects. We're going to be talking to it really in terms of screen dimensions instead of world dimensions. So we're going to offset the x position by the width of the screen divided by 2, right? Because it's going to be centered, and we want to figure out moving in the left position, left and up. So normally x is increasing to the right. So we want to decrease it. We want to move it to the left. That means we need to subtract half the width of the screen to get over to the left edge of the screen. But not all the way. We want to move a little bit back onto the screen so that we're not halfway off the screen. So it gives us a little bit of a margin. We use that offset to be the margin. Next, we do the same thing in the Y position. We figured, okay, here's 0 again. We're moving up is the positive Y. So we're going to add half of the screen height to get back up. So 0, 0 was here. I'm going to push us up here and then subtract the offset again to kind of come in by that margin. So that gives us a new position we want to put everyone in. And we can go ahead, and even though we had grabbed this as the rect transform, this piece over here, we can still refer to transform.position, even though it is a canvas UI object. It's going to do the right thing, right? So temp v, and for grins, just for the heck of it, add that over there. We print it out. Now, we're going to keep track of this in a list. So my foo, which is my life list up here, I'm going to add this as the first element of that list, right? Temp game object. The first game object is going to be the first element. And then, after that first one, I'm going to call add life, and I'm going to call add life a bunch of times. I wanted to create this add life function just in case if you had something you said, okay, every time you score such and such, you're going to add a life. So we can do that. So we call add life. And so for each each life we want to add on there, we basically are taking that temp v, that position of the last one that we put on there, and we go ahead and move it. We offset it by that, and we instantiate a new life prefab, put it in the list, and we then put that. First we add it to the list, and then we change its offset, its position. Notice here I'm using the count foo.count -1 to refer to the last element of the list. Right? That's why. So I know this is the one I just created, and I set its position to be that calculated v value. Okay. Now, so that will add our lives, right? And then just to test things out, what I'm going to do, and I'm thinking there's actually a bug here, because if you add a life and then lose a life, add a life, lose a life, we have to somehow figure out this offset if we were being clever about this here. So what we should really be doing is that the position should be, we should do this, we should say temp v that if we wanted to calculate it each time, it's really going to be temp v, watch this, ready? So I'm going to leave the, okay, that'll be the first one, and then we'll be, we need sort of another temporary, let's see, yeah, this is tricky. So I should have said vector 3 temp v off for another temp v offset. Yeah, so temp v off equals, and it's going to be temp v. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I want to say that temp v off dot x plus equals, and this is the part where I want to use my offset, right? Instead of just adding offset there, it's going to do the same thing, but I'm setting it up so later on when I lose a life and add a life back, it won't have a problem, right? So offset times, no, plus equals, well, here, not plus equals offset times, and here's where this becomes important, foo.count minus 0. So before I add foo to the list here, okay, here's the important part, right? So this is saying, okay, the new offset that you're calculating here is offset according to the number of elements in the list. So it's always going to put it at the end, right? Hopefully that makes sense to you here. Okay, that's why I'm doing that. I'm saying, okay, I need to have it offset according to the x position, according to the number of lives in the life counter. So if I was down and I added some more back in, I would make sure to add it to the end. All right. Now, last thing. Let's see. Let's make sure that works first off. All right, save that. And hit play. Okay, still see a bunch of lives up there. That's a good thing. So they're still up there. And now, in here, what lose life is doing is saying, okay, if you have lives left, if there are lives in your list here, destroy the last one in the list and remove it from the list. Okay, and it's going to do that in this, I'm just using invoke repeating lose life, so it's going to continue after 5 seconds, it will just start taking lives away. Okay, and so here's what I'm going to do. Just to test this, I am going to say, let's see, else. So it's going to say, if I've run out of lives, I am going to add a life. So let's try that. Let's say else, and we'll do this in a loop here. So we can just do this thing again here. So that's the attempt here. We're going to say, all right, go ahead and add lives back again. So if it hits 0, right, if it's not greater than 0, we're going to do this here. So let's see if that works. All right, so I'll try not to get killed. And this is going to take 30 seconds, which is going to be a long time. All right. I'll play the game while I'm doing that then. Hopefully it works because I don't have to repeat it again. Okay, we're down to 2. One. And let's see. What's going on here? Oh, none left. Somehow it didn't create any new ones. Oh, wait, there they are. 5 seconds later, it created new ones. All right, so that worked. All right, very good. It looked like it sort of worked. I think, did it, let's see, add life. It almost looked like it didn't do the right offset at the beginning there. So here it said temp v position, calculate that offset, moved in the right way, temp v, add life. So what happened here? Temp v. Still should have been using that. Temp v. Well, I think it did. I don't know. It did the right thing. I just didn't notice it right. Equals temp v. Let's do it again, but this time let's do this. We're going to have it just do it 1 second intervals. Whoops. I don't think I saved it. Save. So. Alright, let's watch there. And now 1 second later. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see. Yeah, it's weird. It put it all the way to the left there. So, for some reason, it is not using temp v when it added them back again. So let's see if I fix that. It did called add life, and add life is here. Temp v. Why does it look like temp v didn't get fixed here? Add life, temp v offset, temp v. Why did I do this? This would be that says put the first one at that position. And so why don't I say this? Temp v plus, let's try this, x. Right, so now offset, well, I just can't add that. I have to do, yeah. So I have temp v offset off equals new vector 3, whoops, or I can say this, vector 3 dot 0. Okay, that just gives me a 0 for that offset, and then I set the x for that, and that I will say temp v off. Okay, so that's going to use my original temp v, and then that's my offset for that. So let's see, transform foo.count. Oh, let's see, add life, foo count -1. So if foo count is 0 coming in here, when I want to add a life, oh, that could be the problem. So, no, that's good, because it's going to do this. It's going to say, all right, add 1. So that should not be equal to 0. It should say, all right, count that. Ah, this time around, that's going to be 0. So the offset will be 0. That's okay. That's okay. It should really be always just doing this temp v. Certainly it's doing it right the first time. So save that again. Let's try it one more time with that new, slightly new version. See, it's doing. There it did. Okay, we're good now. All right, so it's cycling through. It says, okay, get rid of all of them. Done. And then repopulates them. Okay, so I'm going to leave it up to you to figure out exactly what you want to do with regards to, actually using lose life and add life. This part here of lose life shouldn't really be adding life back, but that's what it's doing. So you could leave that out. and go ahead and use your lose life and add life in your code to do the right thing. Now, let's see. You know, I guess I really don't need this here. Why do I need that? Oh, I know why I needed that. That one I needed because I wanted to add sort of a special one in order to get the size and so on of that. So let's see. Maybe I shouldn't add that to the list. Probably shouldn't do that. Probably should not do that. I shouldn't add that to the list. I should just temporarily grab one. And I wonder if I can even do this. I should be able to say, watch this. Let's see. I will say life prefab. And okay, I'm tempting fate here by. So now I'm just going to refer to the prefab to get these and not use this temporary game object at all. This way I'm not creating any lives. I'm just going ahead and looking at the prefab for those values. I think I can do that. I think that's legal. Nope, maybe not. Okay. For some reason it didn't like that. So, I didn't like that. Because I didn't instantiate it, it didn't put it on the screen. Yeah, that's not a good thing. Let's put all that back. And is it all back? Temp go, yep, there we go. All right. So I will do this. I will say, don't bother adding that to the list. And as a matter of fact, what I'm going to do is remove this part and just destroy this temp game object right away so it doesn't get in the way. The reason I'm getting rid of this is I don't want it to kind of clutter up. I really want it just to be using add life to add the lives there. So I'm just going to temporarily create one, figure out the offset of it when it's instantiated on the canvas in the appropriate spot. It's probably maybe another way to do that, but let's do that. Let's see if that fixed that. Maybe not the cleanest way, but yeah. Let's see, done, and didn't create new ones. Why didn't it create new ones? Temp v equals transform that position. Wow. Oh, it didn't create new ones because I had commented it out. Okay. There they are. Okay, that's good. Good enough for Friday night. Hopefully this is helpful. Take care. Have a great weekend.